Imagine a city on fire, not with flames from a burning building, but with the fires of hatred, fear, and misinformation. This was Atlanta in September 1906. A booming city, touted as the jewel of the New South, was about to be engulfed in a wave of violence that would scar it for generations. What could possibly push a thriving metropolis to the brink of chaos? The answer, tragically, lies in the power of words, twisted and weaponized by the press. This is the story of the 1906 Atlanta race riot, a dark chapter in American history fueled by sensational headlines and outright lies. To understand what happened in 1906, we need to rewind a bit. After the Civil War, Atlanta was rebuilding, attracting people from all over. It became a symbol of progress, with a growing black middle class establishing successful businesses, particularly in a vibrant area known as Sweet Auburn. Black Atlantans were opening banks, insurance companies, and stores. They were building communities, churches, and colleges like Atlanta University and Spelman College. This success, this visible prosperity, created a sense of pride and hope within the black community. However, it also bred resentment and fear among some white Atlantans who saw this progress as a threat to the established racial hierarchy. This simmering racial tension became a political tool. In the 1906 Georgia governor's race, two candidates, Hoke Smith and Clark Howell, were locked in a fierce battle. Both men were powerful newspaper publishers. Smith owned the Atlanta Journal and Howell ran the Atlanta Constitution. To win votes from the white working class, they both ran on a platform of white supremacy, promising to disenfranchise black voters. Their campaigns were a race to the bottom, each trying to outdo the other in stoking racial fears. Their newspapers became their primary weapons. Day after day, the Atlanta Journal, the Atlanta Constitution, and the evening paper, the Atlanta News, printed, sensationalized, and often completely fabricated stories. The main target? Black men. They were relentlessly portrayed as a danger to white women. The papers ran screaming headlines about alleged assaults, almost always without evidence, fact-checking, or responsible reporting. Words like brute, fiend, and monster were used to describe black men, dehumanizing them in the eyes of the white public. These stories weren't just reports. They were incitements. They were designed to create a moral panic, to stir up anger and fear, and to justify the political goal of stripping black citizens of their rights. Think about it. Every single day, you pick up the newspaper and you're bombarded with these terrifying, inflammatory headlines. Negro fiends at large, bold villains. Is the home of the Southern white man safe? The papers created a feedback loop of hysteria. The more scared people got, the more papers they bought. The more papers they sold, the more incentive the publishers had to print even more shocking stories. It was a vicious cycle, and the city was a powder keg waiting for a spark. That spark came on Saturday, September 22, 1906. The Atlanta News, in a desperate bid for circulation, published a series of extras, special afternoon editions. Each one carried a more lurid and false headline than the last, all claiming a string of assaults on white women by black men had just occurred. One headline screamed, "Third assault." A later one read, "Fourth assault." These were pure fiction, manufactured to sell papers and ignite the mob. And it worked. As the sun began to set, white men and boys, fueled by the false newspaper reports and often alcohol, started gathering downtown on Decatur Street. The mood was ugly. Speeches were made, and the crowd's anger boiled over. They began to attack any black person they could find. They pulled black passengers off streetcars, beating them mercilessly. They attacked block-owned businesses, smashing windows and looting shops. A black shoeshine boy was beaten and stomped to death. A disabled man was killed. The violence was indiscriminate and brutal. The mob, which grew to an estimated 10,000 people, had taken over the city. Police were either unwilling or unable to stop the carnage. Some officers even participated in the violence. The state militia was eventually called in, but the rioting continued for 4 days. Black and white residents were not passive victims. In the face of this terror, they armed themselves to defend their homes and communities. In a neighborhood south of the city called Brownsville, black residents, including prominent leaders, organized a defense. When a police officer led a raid into the community, a shootout erupted, resulting in the death of the officer and more violence against the black residents. When the smoke finally cleared, the official death toll was around 25 to 40 people, the vast majority of them black, though the true number is likely much higher. Hundreds were injured, and property damage was immense. The thriving business district on Sweet Auburn was devastated. The riot shattered the myth of Atlanta as a progressive city of racial harmony. For the Black community, it was a terrifying confirmation that their success and even their very lives were constantly at risk. Many families fled the city, seeking safety elsewhere. In the aftermath, there was a predictable response. The newspapers that had fanned the flames suddenly changed their tune, calling for calm and order. The very same editors who had printed lies for months now decried the lawlessness they had helped create. A handful of rioters, both black and white, were arrested. But tellingly, while many of the black individuals arrested for self-defense were convicted and given harsh sentences, nearly all of the white mob members were acquitted. No one was ever held truly accountable for inciting the riot. Polk Smith, the candidate who had campaigned on a platform of racial hatred, won the governorship and moved to pass laws that disenfranchised black voters, achieving his political goal. The 1906 Atlanta race riot is a chilling lesson in the destructive power of misinformation. It shows how media can be manipulated to sow division, incite hatred, and provoke violence. The headlines weren't just words on a page, they were a death sentence for innocent people. This event is a stark reminder of the responsibility that comes with a platform, whether it's a newspaper in 1906 or a social media account today. The language we use matters. The stories we tell, and the ones we choose to believe, have real-world consequences. The ghosts of 1906 remind us to be critical consumers of information, to question narratives that are designed to make us afraid or angry, and to remember the human cost of hate. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story important, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. Let's keep learning from the past, together.